Hi everyone, it's Colin here. I'm here today to make a video about how to run Dungeons and Dragons because it's a fun thing we used to do in class, and I didn't want you guys to be without it for however long it takes to get back to school. So um, things are obviously going to be a little different than before. In class, we would do it where I would run it. I was the dungeon master or game master, whatever you want to call it. And you guys were the players. Or if you didn't play with me, then you were somebody who would observe or just kind of hang out with us when it was going on. But I'm going to make these videos. I think I'm going to make one a week about how to be the dungeon master. And so that way it's something that you guys can use if you're looking for a fun activity to do, while we're not at school, but also because it's, I don't know, kind of fun. And you can involve the people that you're staying with right now or not. Both ways totally work. You could do it by yourself. You can lead the game for yourself, for characters that you make, or you can lead it for other people and their characters. Both are totally fine. So anyway, yeah, that's enough of the intro for now. This week we're going to focus on the first part of GMing or DMing or dungeon mastering or whatever you want to call it, running the game. And that is before you can do anything else, before you have your characters, before you have your abilities and the numbers and the math and all of that kind of stuff, you need to know where it's taking place. Okay? And so in our class, we made a big map. A lot of people worked on it. They put in locations, and we visited those locations and kind of saw what happened there and whatnot. But it doesn't have to be that complicated if you don't want it to be. You can just start with one location, and then if you want to go somewhere else, you can go there, right? But this week we are going to be focusing on the 3 questions it takes that you have to answer to get a setting at all. Okay, so these are the minimum 3 things you need in order to play the game, because then you know where it's being held. Okay, so those 3 questions are, I'm just going to list them out real quick, and we'll go over each of them in depth, and then I will go through all of them and create a setting so that way you can see how it kind of works, and if you want, you guys can use it, or you can say, no, Collins is boring, I'm going to use my own. Both are fine. By the way, if you see me looking down a lot, that's because my notes are down there, so, yeah. Okay, so the first question, okay, is where are we focusing on? Okay, so this is, you might be thinking, where are we? Right, that's the whole point of this, Colin. But no, you need to decide something, right? It doesn't have to be very descriptive, it doesn't have to be long. It can be really simple, so maybe something like a forest, or a small town, or underground, or a castle, or a cave, or maybe you're entirely under the ocean. That can be kind of cool, If you want something super out there, maybe you want to do something in outer space, right? Something where you're on a spaceship and you're going from planet to planet. Could be fun. Okay, so that's question number 1, right? Is where are you? Just put some kind of location down, and then we're going to go and expand on that and make it more involved, so that way anybody who's playing, whether that's us or somebody else that we're running the game for, has some idea in their head that they can picture, so that way they can take the next steps when they're trying to decide what to do. And I'll go over that part in future videos, so don't worry about that for now. But the second question is, what is our goal? Okay, and so that's kind of a tougher one. So you think about wherever you decided. So maybe we'll go with outer space for right now. Okay, so in outer space, right? What's my goal? Okay, if I was going to outer space, my goal would be to explore, right? That seems like that's a good goal, right? Just going from one spot to the next is a goal in itself, right? Getting through this area to go somewhere else. So maybe I want to get through space so I can find a planet. Other goals we can think of are maybe you want to protect an area from something, whether that's like, with the small town earlier I mentioned as a potential setting, maybe you want to protect the small town from some sort of monster, or maybe there's just bad weather, right? Maybe there's a tornado coming. What are you going to do? Maybe you want to find a treasure and get rich. Okay, that'd be a good goal if you were like underground or underwater or something, buried treasure, or like pirate's booty or something. I don't know. Maybe you just want to accomplish something, right? Like maybe you just want to, like, if there's a really tall mountain, maybe you just want to be the first one to get to the top, right? I mean, that's what the people who climb Mount Everest do, and that'd be kind of cool. Yeah, so I mean, those are all just kind of goals. We'll get into more in a little bit, but right now the third question is, who is there already? Okay, and this one's important because it's kind of a two-parter, because the second part of the question is, why is that person there? Okay, so sometimes this one's really easy, right? If you're underground, maybe nobody lives there, right? Maybe it's just a cave. But you can also answer that same question and have a very different setting. So if still underground, maybe a bear lives there. That's suddenly a very different situation, right? If your goal is to get through the cave and there's a bear there, that's very different than if your goal is to get through the cave and there's nobody there. So some example options of who might be there. Maybe there's nobody. Maybe there's a ton of people. Maybe there's a bear. Maybe there's just one old guy, right? And the fun part comes with saying why those people are there or not there. And so with the bear, maybe it lives in that cave because it's hibernating for the winter, right? So then your goal is to get through the cave and not wake up the bear. That's going to be different than if the bear is awake and chasing you, right? Then your goal is to run away from the bear and figure out ways to stop it from getting you. Maybe there's a small town and there's nobody there. Spooky, right? Why isn't there anybody there? Answering that question becomes a lot more interesting, right? Maybe there's nobody there because they all moved. Why'd they all move? That's kind of ominous. Maybe there's nobody there because there was a party happening in the next town over, and so it's not a bad thing at all. Who knows? You guys are in charge here, so you get to make all the creative decisions, which is kind of fun. My favorite, one of you guys might recognize this scenario, but one of my favorite sessions I ran when we were still having Dungeons & Dragons at Serendipity was I answered the question of why was there one old guy in the forest, and it turned out he was a werewolf, right? Whoa, it's kind of fun. He also ended up having a microwave, but that's an entirely different thing. Okay, so to recap, our questions when creating a setting are, where is it happening? What's our goal there? And who's there and why? Okay. And so now I thought I'd take all of those together and create just one setting, right? Could be fun. This way you guys can either use this one as something that you want to use for the future videos, or you can create your own using the same process. Whatever you choose is totally fine. And so I was thinking that a fun where for me, if I'm running this by myself, might be actually my own apartment, right? Now you guys only see one wall, but there is more of it. Yeah, so what if I was really small, this big or maybe this big or something, and I was trying to get around my apartment, right? It'd be kind of fun. I wouldn't have to think too hard. I wouldn't have to imagine too many brand new things. It'd be easy for me to check, what's going on everywhere. And I could say, I want to get from, that door over there to the window. And so how would I do that if I was small, right? So my goal, where is it? My apartment. My goal is to get from one point to another, okay? Who is there already? Well, if I'm really small, then it wouldn't make sense if I'm also here, living here. So I'm going to say that nobody's here. Why is nobody here? Maybe the real me is, I don't know, out grocery shopping. I don't know. But yeah, so I think my setting that I'm going to use for my future videos coming up is going to be my own apartment. Where am I? My own apartment. what is my goal to get from one point to another, and who is there already? Nobody else. Sneak preview for next time, we are going to be doing characters, and I may have set this up so that I could make my cat as a character and play as them for the rest of it. So if you were wondering where I was going with that, that's where I was going with that. But for now, that's all for this week. If you guys create settings and stuff, that would be great, because then you'll be ready for next week when I talk about creating characters. If you want to get started without waiting for that video, feel free. You don't need to worry about rules or anything. Start letting your brain go wild, creating adventures, right? So you have this setting, who lives there, what would be a fun character you might want to play if you were to play Dungeons & Dragons. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be thought up from your head, right? It can be something that you've seen. You can always play as characters that already exist. So if you want to play as a superhero, or if you want to play as a character you read about in a book, or if you were like me and you want to play as your pet, any of those are totally fine. Yeah, so I'll see you guys next week.